Well, I will call this, what's today? April 30th, Joint Commission and Budget Committee meeting to get to order. And the first thing we do is we'll be willing to rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as always, we set aside for a few minutes in the meeting for public comment. Is there anybody who would like to address either the budget committee or the commission? Or both? I don't see any hands raised or anybody rising, so we'll move on to the rest of the agenda. Thank you. Approval of the minutes. Turn this over to the committee.
Okay, everybody, I hope has read the minutes from the last meeting. Do I have a motion?
I move, approve the minutes from regional vote,
Let's-
April 16th
Oh, yes,
and April 23rd.
I already did 16 last meeting.
I think we were gonna chat about it, so that was just no action taken is all it says throughout that.
Oh.
I can resend those and add them to the
Okay.
next one too, if that's
Okay.
easier. Okay.
So I should just say, last week's meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, do I have a second? Say, any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor, the president?
And which one
We're
did you
here, that's one.
I watched the YouTube video.
Okay.
I can withdraw my opinion if it makes it easier.
Which one did you just approve?
Thank you very
Oh,
much.
just the 23rd, because we are,
Okay. Okay. Want to make sure that when we made the motion, we made the motion for the right one too.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for the March 23rd, 2006.
Was I here at that? Yes. Any discussion?
Second.
A second, yes. Is there any discussion on it? Seeing as there's none, all those in favor?
Aye.
3 in favor, none opposed. Budget review. We'll hand it over to the budget committee.
We still have minutes of. Oh, no, we still have minutes of,
So the April 16th meeting was the one where no action was taken. So we didn't review the meeting, the minutes last meeting, because we wanted to have more discussion on it. But I'll recirculate those so everyone can review them and we do it the right way. So those will be on the 12th in our meeting.
okay. Okay, that's all right, but I just, want something to take, red flash it home. Okay, budget review, mutual aid association. That was on the video.
It was on the video, yep, and they presented, and I think the other key piece is they withdrew their entire $31,500 request. So that went down to 0, and that's reflected in the budget you have this evening.
So that's not gonna be that, no? It's that,
Oh, true.
Coast Council and Government. And that's one that's on the video. You have the dollar on
Yes. $61,290. During that meeting, we also had a healthy conversation about what the Mid-Coast Council of Governments can help with for towns. They give away, I think, 16 hours for free, so we'll get more.
Chairman, on that one, I think I may have a conflict of interest, so I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve, for the Mid-Coast Council of Governments, $61,290.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Those opposed? And 2 abstentions.
Page number for that.
Page 30. And I will accept the motion to approve the budget for the Mid Coast Council of Governments.
Make a motion that we approve the miscellaneous, is that what we're working on?
Yep.
For, 1,000,
61,000.
169,705.
No, we're just doing the individual one.
Oh, we're gonna do them individually?
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's $61,290.
for $61,290.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No.
Seeing as there's none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
3 in favor, none opposed.
Okay, next item is the Knox Lincoln extension. Did you have that come up?
Yes,
I didn't write it down while I was watching the video.
that's 54,375.
Move we approve. Knox Lincoln extension. 54,375.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Those opposed? And abstained, okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Knox Lincoln Cooperative Extension Service for $54,375.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing as there's none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed.
Okay, next item, restorative justice. Now, my understanding is they're not asking money for the juveniles, and correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but they want to start an adult program. Okay, and what was the amount on that?
So their initial request was $25,000, and during the presentation last, 2 weeks ago, they decreased it to $18,750.
Okay, do I have a motion? Tell me this one's going. I'll make it as a chairman, but I will,
Well,
just to get it on the table. Okay, I'll make a motion. Do I have a second?
Could we declare that it failed, lack of a second?
Okay,
so I make a motion that we fund restorative justice at 0.
do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Opposed? Abstain.
What was the motion again? I couldn't hear it up here.
His motion was, the amount they wanted failed due to lack of a second. Jeff made a motion to fund it at 0.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve restorative justice?
I will make a motion that we approve the restorative justice amount for $18,750.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? This is where we get into the conflicting parts of what we do, is they will submit, what they submit will be the budget that's submitted to the towns. But we're gonna go on record as wanting to restore it to it. So at the very end, once this budget has been passed, after it goes through the public hearing in a couple of weeks, we will have the opportunity to vote on individual parts. And we can add that part back if we want to. As long as we pass it unanimously, it becomes the new budget. Unless the budget committee by a what is it? A
2/3.
2/3 majority
Right.
overrides what we do. So what they're doing is gonna be the budget for now.
Yep.
But we will go on record in the minutes as approving the full amount. So I will call the vote. Any other discussion? Seeing as there's none, all those in favor?
Aye.
3 in favor, none opposed.
Okay, Knox Lincoln Soil and Water. An amount for them.
$35,290.
So I make a motion that we approve Knox Lincoln Soil and Water for $35,290.
Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Opposed? Abstained.
And I'll accept the motion to approve the Knox Lincoln Soil and Water Conservation District budget at $35,290.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing as there's none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nobody left to say no? 3 in favor, none opposed.
Next, airport projects. What page is this on?
9.
Lord yours.
So this is a bit of an update. Last year it was referred to as Apron Rehab Phase 3. It's now being referred to as Apron Rehab Phase 2. That was, the FAA made us change the name back from 2 to 3. But last year we came with this project. It was a little bit less than what you're seeing today, but that's because the FAA hinted that we might be getting some discretionary funds. Basically meaning they're gonna offer us more federal funding for a repaving project. It's every so often the pavement on the airport gets worn down from all the aircraft driving on it. It's a safety issue to have faulty paving, so it's just routine airport business is revamping pavement. The reason that the project total went up again is because it's more federal funding that's supposed to be coming our way. The new total is now $4,244,463. Some of this is the standard airport improvement plan funds, the AIP funds, and then the rest of that will be discretionary funds.
The actual number for the county though was 144,063, is that correct?
Yes, so that's the number for the county. That is assuming that the state does not pay 2.5% for the discretionary funds. So that's the most that the county would expect to pay. It's possible that that is less if the state agrees to pay the 2.5% for discretionary, but that's the highest that we would expect.
So I understand the logic is because we get higher FAA funds, we have to match a certain percentage, and so does the state, and we just do that to get these funds.
Yes, sir. It's the, let's see here. So the paving is gonna have to be replaced either way, but with this adding discretionary fund, basically we're allowed to do more in one project than what we would have having to stop the project and then start it up next year and pay engineering fees and, the whole process. This just lets us get more done at one time, but at a certain point, it's going to have to be.
And I'd also add to that because they're getting it in now, if they put it off and did it next year, instead of 2.5%, it's going up to 5%. So getting the money and doing the project earlier saves us quite a bit.
Do I have a motion?
I move we approve the airport budget or the airport share or the county share of the airport rehabilitation phase 2 at $144,063.
Second. Second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? None opposed? Thank you all.
Ready to accept the motion to approve the airport projects budget
I'll make a motion that we approve the apron rehabilitation phase 2 project for the Knox County, share of $144,063.
Second.
The moved and seconded, any discussion? I have a couple of questions, or a question. Is this number based on a bid that we've gotten, or is it just a number that then we'll see what projects we can fit under that number?
No, we have gone out to bid for this and we have received bids.
So we know what we're getting done for this amount of money.
Yes.
Wonderful.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
And again, this is probably because I couldn't hear you well enough, Jacob. And my apologies for that. But did I hear you say that this is based on us not receiving state funding, but there's a chance we may receive state funding? Is that correct?
So the state is going to fund their share of the AIP funds that we get every year. But with the rest of the funding being discretionary funds from the FAA, the state isn't technically required to pay for that. And we're waiting to hear back from them now whether or not they're gonna give their share of just the discretionary funds. But they have committed to the AIP funds, if that makes any sense.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. And how much would the discretionary funds be?
I have to look it up. I don't know off the top of my head.
That's okay. It's okay. But if you at some point have that information, that would just be interesting to have, because I'm assuming that if we did get those funds, then whatever we didn't end up having to cover does that end up going into the reserves for the following year? Is that right?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Oh, I was just saying that if we did get the discretionary funds from the state, and then we didn't need the full 144, whatever was remaining, would that end up going into the reserves? Is that how that
I
works?
think it goes into airport projects specifically.
Basically, you just wouldn't pull as much out.
Yeah.
The pot's there and you can pull this amount out and pull that, so it just is.
Yeah. Did you catch that, Morgan?
I'm sorry, if people could just speak up a little bit, but I think what I heard was that it just stays in airport projects.
Yes, we would just be pulling less out of our projects.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry that I've created this technology problem, but I appreciate you all bearing with me. Thanks so much.
Any further discussion? Seeing as there's none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
3 in favor, none opposed.
Register of probate.
It's page 25.
Sure, she will not have a problem hearing my loud voice. In specific question about or Julie Allen from the Register of Probate in Union. I was the deputy from 1999 until 2025. Basically, the probate office is a court. We have to follow the laws, many procedures. We do a lot with guardianships, estates, adoptions, name changes. I always call us the office you don't know you need until you need us. I haven't asked for a small increase for the deputy to go from 30 hours a week to 35, but I've eliminated the overtime line, which really isn't overtime. The deputy has never been paid time and a half out of that line. It's basically in free time, it's just, that's how that line was labeled. Basically, when we do the guardianships and the conservatorships for the guardians, there's been a major overhaul of the probate rules. We now have to do more follow-up. We need to know where these minors are that we've placed with the well, not we placed, but allowed the grandparents to become guardians of. We need to know where they are. That's been in the news a lot lately through the state with all their stuff. The same with your parents and your grandparents who are under guardianship because they have dementia and we've allowed you to be in charge of their money. We need to make sure they're not running off with their money. We've had a lot of increase of our workload due to a lot of the law changes. My deputy is very diligent about making sure that we are trying to follow up if someone has not filed their reports, that type of thing. The sheriff's office has very graciously, if we can't find them, they're allowing one of their detectives to help us track them down because they've got access to information we don't. Another thing is, with our fees, we may receive a fee of like $90 to do a minor guardianship. We then deal with that minor guardianship until that minor turns 18, and all we've ever gotten is that $90. We can do tons of hearings, we've got a lot of follow-up, but we never get more than that initial $90. We weren't designed to make money. We were technically designed to be a widows and orphans court of the public. So we work very diligently to do that. Our office is basically known statewide for really stepping up and helping the public as much as we can. We are a public office. I don't know if you got other questions. We do passports. I'm hoping that passport services will be increasing the amount of money they allow us to charge per passport processing. We do not set that fee. But with the increase in postage, I'm hoping
What do you get for passports if I can ask?
we get $35. And that's, you know, if we do 7 passports, that does make us some money. If we're only doing 1 passport with, but, I got some figures here. We did bring in $32,562 in passports and photos last year. It's not a huge amount, but every bit we can help bring in does help. Sometimes we're very quick and have people in and out. Sometimes people need a lot of hand-holding. But they're very happy that we are doing it because they are not happy with the service they're getting at the post office. It is a service for Knox County. We do have people come from other counties to do it, but our residents do appreciate that we do it, that we will do quite a bit of hand-holding to get them through the process.
And thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. There's a lot of people.
I was gonna say last time with mine a few years ago, it was a breeze compared to what it was in the past.
Yeah, so we do try to walk people through it.
So I'd like to comment, and it's just nice to meet you finally. People don't know you. And it's a pleasure to see that we have such a functional a blending of, you've got a lot of new technology, but you have
Yes.
a lot of basic good customer service and communication skills. The fact that you work with the sheriff. I know from a fact that because we're an aging state, your services are going to continue to be incredibly important to not only the people that are aging out or dying, as we say.
Yeah.
But it's the family left behind that and I can state that many of my friends throughout the region have commented on other county operations, and they will always be pleased to ask for help in Maine counties. It's amazing how much help is there, and so thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. Maybe I'm pouring some water into the wine, so. So it's an increase by 12%, and that is an increase after 16.3% the year before. Why do these costs run away so much?
Last year, the register hours went from 35, actually 30. The previous register worked 30 hours a week. So we had the register at 30, the clerk at 30, and myself at deputy at 35, and actually 2024. In 2025, when I became register, we bumped it up to 40 hours a week.
So
I'm
the
actually-
workload gets
it-
more.
The work gets more.
It scales with what? With residents or with?
Oh, with the workload, we are now required to do fingerprinting on, or FBI background checks on all name changes, report our name changes to FBI, State Bureau of Investigation. We're required to do more of the follow-up on the guardian and conservatorships, which takes a lot of time, but I will say my staff is awesome. In fact, today, one of the ladies said, hey, I haven't gotten any feedback from this person, we're gonna need to schedule a hearing on this. And if we can't with that, we'll contact the sheriff's department. I said, well, who are you doing? And she said the name, and I said, oh, just so you know, because you weren't here when they started this, English is not their first language. They may not be able to understand what the letter is you're sending. And on her own, she took the initiative. She found a way to translate her letter into a language they could read. The letter went out today in English and in the other language to just remind them, hey, you need to do this report. So we've got a lot of follow-up. We're doing a lot of creative things to try to help do that. We've had a big increase in workloads. And like I said, we're only getting that initial filing fee and then nothing else. We're not designed to make money.
I think the previous leadership, there was an opportunity to have some additional hours and they never took it. And that office really does need ideally three full people, but we'll slowly get there. It's a lot of work, it's intricate work, and it just hasn't been happening for years and years and years. So there was a big increase, and now another one, a big 2020 compliance change for them, which, as she mentioned, increased the workload, and we just haven't caught up to it yet.
Workload doesn't come from
Yes.
Agencies.
Yeah, we are getting an increase. Waldo County, who has on average, a few less cases, new cases a year than we do, they have four 40-hour-a-week staff. We have 2 30s and 40. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we have to use, it's very difficult to project revenue. We don't know how many people are gonna need a passport in 2026. So we do our best to look at past, and we do our best to project, and some of those can be, I don't wanna say a guess, but it's an educated guess, so.
It is a guess, yeah. Oh, even with fees for estates and that type of thing, which is our bigger revenue. I can't dictate only rich people die in Knox County so that I can get larger fees. It's almost like exactly how many red cars are gonna go by on Union Street in the next half hour. You know, all I can do is give it an educated guess and hope from there. We have been unfortunately very lucky and had some multimillionaires die within the last few years, which did give us a big bump in revenues. That doesn't happen very often.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The amount you're looking for is 412,352.
Yes.
Yes,
Wasn't it corrected to 417,000?
oh,
No, just got to 90.
It's just the expenditure, right?
Yeah.
The 430 sheet says 417,000.
When there's a grand total I'm seeing after the income. 226,174.
just expenditures, which should be on page 25, it's that last number, so I wonder, what-
412,352.
yes,
Okay.
you're good. So page 25, the last line, the 412,352, I'll have to look at yours if yours is, I'll have to look at yours. Because you're saying 417?
Yeah, that's on the page 21. That's the cost. It's before revenue.
Page 25.
And definitely my office is open anybody to come in and see what we do.
Sorry about that.
Do you see it?
I'll make a motion to approve the probate's budget at $226,174.
Second.
Move to second, any further discussion?
I'd just like to make a comment. Basically, the only increase in this budget is the licensing for the computer, which all of the departments are carrying. And the increase in the benefits side of it, which that's insurance and under our control.
And we did request a meeting owl, which we're actually using the commissioner's meeting owl to record our hearings, so they'd kind of like to have it back and us have our own.
And I do have one more question. We're about halfway through the year, so you should have a picture of what the revenues are so far this year. And I'm assuming that you have gone back and adjusted this because of the
I actually
reality.
increased some on revenues. We're trying.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Passes.
On the commission side, I will accept a motion to approve the probate budget.
I'll make the motion that we approve the grand total net budget of $2,026,174. And I'd like to mention that I like the idea of only having rich people pass away.
Me too.
That would be us in this room.
Yeah.
You know, we'll be here for any time, so I'd like to make that, I guess I can't make that part of the motion.
Seconded, any more discussion? Seeing there's none, all those in favor?
Aye.
3 in favor, none opposed.
Register deeds.
Page 15, I'm gonna be on top of it from now. Quick overview, in case some aren't totally familiar with what our office does. So the deeds office is responsible for recording and preserving all land records for Knox County following the main statute. Each year, we process from 3,000 to 4,000 municipal and state documents, and roughly 6,000 to 7,000 other documents from citizens and federal offices, that type of thing. 2026, so we have an increase in recording fees. The state of Maine has decided to switch to a flat fee for recording, which is really nice because we get a lot of calls from out of state and they want to verify the recording fees. They used to be per page, how many names, references. Now it's a flat fee, which is nice. We also saw, starting November 1st, an additional transfer tax that we collect on over $1 million sales. So typically with the deed, we get a transfer tax. They pay a tax on the purchase price. There are some exemptions, and they did add a few more exemptions, so I'm not sure how that will play out with the transfer tax that we collect. But we do
see quite a bit of million-dollar sales in Knox County, so we've seen quite a bit of revenue there. The portion that's over $1 million adds up fast because it's $6 per 500, or so for every $500 over $1 million, there's a $6 charge. So we're actually seeing that portion over $1 million could be so much more than the $1 million transfer tax. Having said that, the state decided to drop the percentage of the transfer tax that the county now keeps. So we were keeping 10%, now we keep 9.2%. So there's a lot of things in these figures that I'm kind of still gonna have to work throughout 2026 to get like an accurate feel, because there's exemptions, there's less that we keep, but there's some things that they pay more on. So I think that the revenue that we'll get from recording fees, we'll see that's gonna be a very good increase in revenue for deeds office. I also think as far as copies and that type of thing, even though that's not a huge amount of income revenue for the deeds office, we'll see a little bit more increase in that because the state had set the free copies that people could get online at 500, and they lowered that to 400, which is still a huge amount of free copies for the average person. So we might see a little bit of income from that. Last year, for 2025, the total revenue for the deeds office was closer to 500,000 than 400,000. I don't know if you have any particular questions, much like all the offices, we're seeing that computer licensing fee increase that we once again don't have any control over. We have to have the licensing on the computers.
I have a question.
Sure.
What is a recorded document?
Yeah, for the municipalities and state offices, the flat fee is 25, and it's $40 for everything else, except for the fees are 50. $40 for all documents, unless you're state or municipality. So mostly what we get from the towns are the property, sewer liens, property tax liens, and then they'll also record the discharges once the people. That's where that 3,000 to 4,000 documents comes in. Main revenue, tax liens, discharges, those are all $25. You see a lot of state documents and all of the towns in Knox County. We pay, as far as expenses, we pay a flat fee per document with our vendor, and that includes all of our computers that we use for recording, along with our scanners, printers. It's a really good vendor. We were the first in Maine to get them, and now probably half of the counties have also switched to them. They're super good, customer service great. Anytime, we've had so many changes with state requirements that we've had to have them code for the transfer tax. And it wasn't real simple to go from 10% to 9.2. They couldn't do an even number, but the vendor that we have, they're amazing. You have a conversation with a real person, and within 24 hours, usually they have the report that you need, and the software has been changed, and they're great. So we pay just a flat fee for everything.
Question, the wages up 8%? Just can see them. Is there something specific that you're?
Same amount of hours. I have myself and my deputy, we are 40 hours, and then I have a part
But that's
for
what,
25. But that was the same as last year.
I'll double check the percentage increase, make sure it's accurate
Yeah.
against the calc.
because I would think it would be.
And I didn't have any. I'd like to thank you.
You probably are, but
We really do, we get a lot of work done with a very small staff. Once again, I think every year we hear the same thing, like, I really wish my part-time was. I feel like I work an additional part-time position in order to make sure that everything's done. And I often say that I'm the register, but if I'm not a receptionist, if I don't do customer service and do the recording, then we fail as an office. So it's wearing several hats to get it done. But I think we're very efficient and our accuracy is great. We are always getting praise from the towns and the attorneys. Our records are good.
Yes, George?
You are a profit center to us, right?
Yeah.
You make money. So when I
Yeah.
hear you would rather have more hours, you hire as many as you can when they generate more profit.
Thank you, Mr. Hobbs. It's been a struggle. I forever worked 35 hours and I gave up kind of a 35-hour position to have it go to part-time with no benefits so that I could get paid for 40 hours and my deputy for 40 hours because that's what we do, is work. And it's a lot of work in that amount of time.
Or to put it differently, if we would give you more hours, would the profit go up?
I just think that you have a smoother running operation, less chance. I don't think that, I can only record what's presented, so the revenue is set, like our recording fees are set, what we can charge for copies, like everything's through statute, so I can't come up with like an idea to make more than what I can make on what we record, if that makes sense.
Considering also the burnout succession plan, just making sure that office doesn't crumble because it is a huge revenue generator and they do work diligently. Yeah.
And once again, we had so much thrown at us and very little time to make it work and train staff from September to the end of the year. And we still are having changes.
Do other counties have difficulties
With what?
with what we do? Do we do it better than they?
We're very, very good. I think
We
that,
have a great reputation in
yeah,
the state, but
I
most,
think we're considered to be one. Yes, and I don't want to dog on anyone, but we've always received a lot of praise for, and we're check, double check. That's how I like to keep the records.
My question is, as we outsource our jail to bridges, we might source in their deeds work when we can do it better and generate more profit.
Well, it's actually by statute per
That's what I'm-
county, like we can only record Knox County documents, Waldo is only recording Waldo County documents.
I think we did a study a year or two ago, and I think similar to probate, most of the offices have at least 3 or 4 full-time
Right.
people. So
We're-
again, we're just trying to catch up in a way that's fiscally responsible so that we don't burn out our staff.
Hey, do I have a motion?
I move to approve deeds budget at a negative
Yes.
$265,620.
Second. Second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Passes?
And to the commission, I'll accept the motion to accept the deed budget.
I make a motion that we accept the budget of a positive income of $265,620.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
A couple things, in hearing, I would love to see next year an application for the third person to be a full-time, for all the reasons you talked about. That if it's a department that makes money and is overworked and understaffed. And that doesn't work in the long term. And I'd also like to, I can't do this, I'm sorry. If we can combine the, only allowing multi-millionaires to pass away and then them having to sell their $1 million properties afterwards, we could really make a lot of money. So just putting it out there. Sorry for having a sense of.
Well, we don't see many sales under 500,000, unfortunately, for people trying to buy property nowadays. It's remained high. It has not come down too much from that.
And, I just want to thank you. I mean, it's one of those departments we have that runs so smoothly. Whether you need a 40-hour person or a 35-hour person, we'll discuss that next year with the county administrator. But I've always appreciated how well you guys run and how easy it is with technology to track down deeds online, going way, way back when I'm looking at old houses, just to try to figure out who the hell owned the house at one point or another. And so that part of it makes it just a public service.
And that's worth mentioning too, because not all counties have all of their records online. Ours are all accessible online back to 1760.
Right. The only failing in there is my understanding of what the hell I'm reading.
Well, come in, and we will give you a tutorial.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing,
So everybody was heaping on the praise, so I should too, but but Matt, you already know that I think very highly of your office, and yeah, so thank you, and I second what Mark was saying about taking a look at your staffing, and we'll be talking about that in October, not even next year. So looking forward to that conversation.
Thank
the discussion, call the vote. All those in favor? Me in favor, none opposed. Thank you.
If I could say one thing before you leave. The service that you offer, which I don't think many people know, when somebody records a document in their name, they have the ability to notify you of that recording. And that's something that not many people know about. And counties are need to jump on board with that. That's a phenomenal service.
Yeah, we've mentioned it before, like when we first started doing it, but it's a fraud alert. And that's another great service that our vendor has offered as a free service to everyone. You can sign up for a fraud alert. Anytime anything is recorded in your name, you'll get an email alert. Thank you. And it's right on our website.
I signed up for it, believe me, it works.
Okay, information technology.
Good evening, everyone. You, Bolts.
23.
But for those of you who aren't familiar with it, I'm Zach Green, the director of IT here. Many of you are probably familiar in general with what IT is, but here specifically at the county, me and my staff are responsible for the stand-up, the management of, and the day-to-day troubleshooting and the security for all the technology that we support. That's our servers, that's our desktops, that's our laptops, even phones, security cameras, everything. So end to end, we take care of all of it here. And overall is jumping right into the budget here. For the most part, it's not a whole lot of changes except for a few specific items. I'd say the biggest ones would probably be in relation to Motorola Flex. So that is an increase in Motorola Flex this year. That has to do with contract renegotiation. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
How did your health insurance go down?
That's a great question. And the finance director probably answered better. The basic of it comes down to when we hired a new individual onto my team, the benefits were based around them being a family plan, so that we can make sure that we budgeted appropriately if they were, and they're not. They're on the.
Oh, okay. So you didn't find a lower price insurance?
And so in relation to Motorola Flex, it's a contract negotiation that we're doing with Motorola. And that's because we originally were customers of the Flex platform prior to Motorola owning it, back in the Spillman Data Systems. We signed that contract in either 1988 or 1989, one or the other. And we've been customers ever since. We are unable to, despite our best efforts, locate a copy of that contract currently, and neither is Motorola. So we're operating with something that's so critical to us purely on good faith between the two of us. We'd like to actually get something formal in place there, and this is part of that process. As a beneficial side effect of that, they're going to give us quite a few new modules that otherwise do cost a substantial amount. And they greatly improve our overall productivity and officer safety with those modulars. So there are a couple of features that support our dispatchers, like the ability to import 911 data directly into the call taking system. There's automatic vehicle locators, those types of things. So overall, just improving safety, security, efficiency, those types of things with that. And then other than that, the only line that had, I think, significant increase was the computer supplies and equipment. And that's just in relation mostly to equipment aging out. So we need to just purchase some replacement battery backups for some servers, network switch needs to be replaced. And we are purchasing an ID printer we're looking to do. So one of the capital projects relates to replacing the access control system for the courthouse as well as the public safety building due to numerous issues that have been identified with that system. Part of that process would be purchasing this ID printer to allow us to print ID cards. Right now, EMA prints those cards and they've been a huge help to us, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in the workflow in regards to employee onboarding and so forth to continue to have EMA always having to print those cards for all employees. It's not necessarily, not that they've done a bad job or anything like that, but it just doesn't necessarily make sense for them to always need to be involved in that process when it's not necessarily their job or responsibility. And we're looking at purchasing a set of hard drive imaging tools. Those are a very specialized piece of equipment, very helpful for whenever we need to do any kind of security investigations or responses to allow us to preserve any data for that in a forensically sound manner for analysis later. But those are the majority of the major changes there. But happy to take any questions.
So when we did capital plans or capital projects, access control and the server, I think was on building maintenance, and they had a couple of follow-up questions. So I don't know if anybody, and we talked about access controls in the building maintenance capital plan as well as that server. Those both really fall to IT as far as the expertise. So I just want to bring that back up if anybody has specific questions.
Question. Can you speak a minute about how serious the threats to security are these days? 'Cause
Yes.
it seems to be.
Definitely. We're in a new era, as many of you may be familiar. Opinions set aside here regarding AI and those types of things. It's definitely heavily prevalent in the cybersecurity space. And so the rate at which new vulnerabilities are discovered that threaten our systems, the rate at which we see attacks increasing, supplemented by the use of these AI tools, just continues to get more and more and more every day. We see threat intelligence reports that we get from the federal government and the state. We're constantly receiving new updates regarding new vulnerabilities that were discovered, new active attack campaigns for ransomware, for data exfiltration that they do to then extort people with that data, whether for money or to try to get leverage of some kind, whatever it may be. The threats really are kind of endless at this point. At the end of the day, many of our work will all be connected to the internet, for what we do in one way or the other for email and so forth. And the internet is where all the bad guys live. So it's.
I think similar to a lot of departments, like we talked about with probate, just nothing was done to keep up with the workload, and I know we saw that in IT for many, many years. So again, we're doing a lot of catch up to get ahead of this and replace stuff and be more efficient and all of that. So again, trying to be fiscally responsible, but have a lot to catch up on.
Is there training available to your employees on phishing and tax?
Yeah, we do that every year.
Jeff?
Do you have an outside source that monitors if you're getting, if somebody's, it alerts you to somebody being hacked or?
Well, we have multiple security platforms, that we leverage. So for our endpoint protection, that actually monitors the activity on the endpoints. And then our email suite and so forth, we have multiple different platforms that we leverage. And then we all kind of aggregate all that information and then it's reviewed by me.
George?
Yeah, but the percentage numbers here are misleading because they refer to the budget from last year. The cost of personnel actually went up by 12.5%. And the grand total went up by 13.8%. So
Again, I'll double check those.
well, that's with that numbers. Unfortunately, we refer the percentage to the budget instead of the actual spending of last year, which I prefer because that's fact. Last year was budgeted wrong.
Did we hire a third person last year? There was a new person added that you talked about. So that's why the budget would have gone up.
And that person wasn't hired, so the actuals were lower, or what is?
Well, there was a job, last year's budget committee added a third person to the department because it was locally understaffed. So that's why you would have increased salaries and wages. And that's the third person he talked about, that was a single person instead of a family person, and that's why the health insurance went down.
IT also used to be under administration, so that was combined in the administration budget, and in 2024, we made the decision that as of 2025, they'd have their own standalone budget. So not a lot to go off of as far as, excuse me, projections and actuals, but yes, I forgot Jonathan came in 2025.
And a minor hint, in the other budgets, there were 24 and 23 numbers. I also like to look at trends.
Yes.
Because just 1 year doesn't say much.
Yep.
But I understand it's a similar pattern like with the communication center. You need to catch up, bring it up to speed, do things that have been missed in the past. So it's not really on cruising altitude. Yet, not yet.
Anyone else? Call for motion.
I move we approve the IT budget at $521,126.
Second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Done, with you in favor? Done. Okay, vote quick, so I'm sure I can change your mind. Thank you.
And from the commission side, we'll make a motion to approve the IT budget.
Make a motion, we approve the IT budget of $520,000.
And it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I remember the discussion over the last few years about how understaffed it was for the amount of work, especially because of what the sheriff requires and the rules for the jails and all that. And I'm happy to see that the third person that we added last year appears to be enough for us to basically keep up with it. Without us saying, oh, we still need to add more people. I mean, at the point where IT uses more people than the sheriff's department, they're getting into trouble. So it's good to try to keep it down to a reasonable number. Thank you very much. I suppose it works both ways. Technology can
make it so that we need more people working in IT, but ideally it works so that, within your purview, you need fewer people to do the same work. I know that in terms of the risk pool, our insurance, they have been on all of the counties about making sure that we're up to date and up to speed on our security platforms, because we have seen exactly what we've been talking about, ransomware for some of the counties where they've had to basically pay money to get their data back. And as long as we're on top of it, we want to make sure that that happens so that we don't wind up having to pay doubly, both for higher insurance rates as well as to get the information back to us. So thank you, and whatever you need to make that happen, let us know. Any other discussion? Seeing as there's none, all those in favor?
Aye.
3 in favor, none opposed. Thank you.
And sorry, I forgot, you mentioned this access cards,
Access card, yeah, ID
Yeah.
cards, yep.
and I recall that was a few meetings ago, we said we would talk about that. So, the question at the time, when I recall correctly, was that we had 2 projects in at the same time.
Yes.
Adding up.
Yep.
Also, we wondered whether we could spread it out over several years. Is this the right time to address it?
Yeah, I don't see why not. And I'll let you take it, but it's very similar to, what Jacob was mentioning with the airport project. And correct me if I'm wrong, but once they're out here with all of their equipment and do it, it's gonna, to have them come out twice to separate the 2 buildings is what he's saying. So do the courthouse 1 year and then public safety buildings the other.
What we found with that is the biggest challenge is the fact that we have a lot of people that go between both buildings. And so having 2 buildings on different systems becomes really cumbersome for the staff. And ultimately, the issues that we've identified are the same with all the systems. There's several security issues we've identified, usability issues with the current system, which is why we're looking to replace them. So we have it set for the 2 buildings here and the public safety building to be replaced this year ideally. And we do have the airport set as a 2027 project, right? So we already did push that one back to try to split the costs up a little bit and also be more reasonable about the workload there. This is a substantial project to change out those access controls at a building. What we found was really, again, it comes down to the users that use it. Having to maintain 2 separate credentials, remember which one to use at which building, it's not the end of the world. It's frustrating for the staff to remember which one it is. But again, the bigger concern here was those security issues that we've identified with them, particularly at the public safety building, but also here. The airport, we're not happy about the situation, but we have a couple of things that we can implement there to kind of mitigate some of that risk temporarily, to kind of hold us over until 2027. At these other 2 buildings, we don't necessarily have the ability to implement those mitigations as well for some of those security and usability concerns.
So we take the bitter pill because we want to avoid the risk of these outdated technology. That's what I'm getting.
So they don't fail, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
okay.
yeah. And we have to do our part, I mean, the US Marshals are here for the judges in this building, but we need to comply with their, standards, and I won't say we're out of compliance, but it's, yeah, we're taking a risk with our system right now, I can probably say that confidently.
Can I piggyback on it a little bit? Are you still gonna end up with the same system in all the buildings, including the airport?
Yes, ultimately, it will still be we're looking at multiple vendors, of course. We have 2 that we're between at this point, pending budgetary approval. But the idea would be, to still have the same system at 3 sites. However, the system is going to be supported with some more granularity to allow for more proper segmentation of privileges and so forth between the different buildings and those types of things, as opposed to the current system. You were familiar with it, some of the issues that we had with this, but we've actually identified some since some time you left, so.
EMA is page 19.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. At this point, I'm Candace Richards. I'm the Emergency Management Director. Not a whole lot of changes in our budget this year. The main increase that we have is if you look under equipment repairs and maintenance, the $7,380 per rate, which is a Motorola product, excuse me. It's our emergency alert system that we will be putting to use once we get that up and running. It allows people to sign up for emergency alerts around the county. Public safety agencies will be able to request that we put out alerts for them. Some of the towns have some of their own systems, some of them do not. The goal would be once we get comfortable with it at the county level, we'll make it available to the towns. They can kind of come in and as like a child account under the parent. It's the way it works. They don't have to, but they can. So that's the main increase there. We've already had it a couple of years. It was paid for in previous years with money we just already had on hand. So that money has been used up. So now it has been moved into my budget. Let's see. I don't know if anyone wants me to talk about EMA a little bit. If you aren't aware, a lot of what we do is coordinating and facilitating. We work with all of your town EMA directors. In Maine, emergency management is at all 3 levels of government. The town level folks tend to wear a million different hats, so we try to support them as much as we can. We do a lot of grants that have benefited the towns, especially the public safety agencies. We support them with equipment for mass gathering events or fire scenes or whatever it is that they've got going on. We do a lot of emergency plans for ourselves, but we also work with schools on theirs. We help the towns with their emergency operations plans. My part-timer, he was specifically hired to work with towns on updating some of those town emergency operations plans that are so outdated. So like we put in goals for going out to Vital Haven and North Haven, so he can actually go out there and work with people.
Who's your part-timer? You just mentioned.
It's the EMA planner position, but we try not to say people's names in these meetings. I'm sorry.
Well, so
But-
then on another note, a couple of meetings ago, Mr. Coombs has a position that's coordinating with you.
He's working with me. He's kind of,
So
I see him as-
explain the two of you.
I can do that. I feel like his position is kind of like a liaison position because he's working in a more direct role with especially the fire departments. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of these. So he is working directly with them and helping them manage the things that they do. What he's working with me on is some of the things that we do a lot of coordinating and organizing. So we have, for instance, MOUs, memorandums of understanding, with different entities out there, like heavy equipment operators, for instance, that might have equipment that a fire department might need in the middle of the night, that kind of thing. So we help track all these resources, not just from the public sector, but also all of these fire departments, EMS, police, so that dispatch and Bobby working with them can help make sure that the resources are available and distributed when they are needed.
Okay. Thank you.
Did anyone have any direct questions about anything in my budget?
Only a comment, I like to see that your budget is actually going down when I look at the spendings. Yeah,
Sure.
so for 2 consecutive years, so it seems you have all your equipment, you seem to be on a cruising altitude and getting more and more efficient.
We had a higher amount in there for equipment maintenance, but the second vehicle that I had inherited from my predecessor was in worse condition than anyone really realized, so it kind of died a lot faster than we were expecting. So now we're down to one vehicle, we just have the truck that we use to tow everything. So we'll figure that out in the future, we're not gonna try to deal with replacing any vehicles or anything this year. So that's why we lowered that, and that is lower, because a newer truck still doesn't need that much maintenance.
And I think some diligence with your seeking out grants and staying on top of them and ensuring they get approved, right? That the EMA department has a lot of grant opportunities that other departments don't have, so that helps them.
And you're using it.
That's true, and we do it for other departments. A lot of grants that I've done in the last 2 or 3 years have been for cybersecurity that Zach has been able to be quite a bit in use, so, in the sheriff's department and some other departments, so.
Didn't we just okay 3 grants that you just received this year? 2?
2, yes. The Homeland Security grant is still kind of tied up at the federal level, so we don't know what's gonna happen with that one. But one EMA grant is reflected in the budget because it's been around for quite some time. It's in here as EMA match. It's in the revenues section. The only thing I would say about that is I give the warning every year is we never know if it's going to continue. And this year, we went through quite a bit waiting to even get the grant before they could even approve it because of all the fighting that was going on at the federal level. So a lot of these grants are starting to kind of disappear. Yay while we got them. But just remember, they may not be around forever. But we go with what we got.
Your wages went down from last year, so did you hire somebody new that was lower?
I wondered if anyone would notice that. Apparently, there was some confusion. Okay, when we first got the part-time position, I had asked for 28 hours. And at that budget year, there was some discussion about it going down to 20. Some of us, once we got after the budget was approved and everything, were thinking it was 20. Some of us were thinking it was 28. So I had him working 20 hours for like a year and a half, not realizing, dang, I could have had him working 28. So we just moved it down to 20 because that seems to be working for us right now. In the future, if anything changes, I might ask for more hours, but we're just gonna keep it on at 20. So that's why it looks like it has actually gone down.
And this is just because my brain doesn't remember back to 2024. But there's a significant spike in 2024 in the wages specifically. And so what happened in that year? Is that
20? Well, was that the year we moved the GIS over? Because we had a 4th position in EMA, and in 2025.
so 25?
So all the GIS, including the position, moved into the administration office. So I looked even better last year because all came out.
No more questions, call for a vote? On the motion, sorry.
I'll make a motion that we approve the EMA budget at $202,330.
That's. Second? Any further discussion?
Who did you get the second? So you both did that at the same time?
Which one do you want to say?
Doesn't matter.
I'll just put down in. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
And on the commission level, I'll accept the motion to approve the EMA budget.
Make a motion, we approve the EMA budget of $202,330.
Second.
And moving and seconded, any discussion? Yeah, I think on the wages one thing, the reason it goes up and down is the first time was that third person was on a grant originally, wasn't it?
That's true.
And then-
Yes, the part that was a grant funded.
Even though we had three, it was a grant, and then that grant went out, we adopted whatever, 20 or 28 hours. And so that went up because of that. And then the next year, GIS left the department, so it went back down. And now we're hopefully, this is what our staff is gonna be for a few years. And so at least it makes it hard to the point that we tried to make, is it makes it hard to compare a budget from year to year and say, oh yeah, it's only going up 2% or 5%, because it's like a sleight of hand that the county administrator is pulling on us, because we can't figure this out. At the end, it all totals up to the same, it's there at the end, but it's hard to compare some of the budgets. Yeah. So if there's no other discussion,
Vote.
call the vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
3 in favor, none opposed. Thank you, and we understand it's getting harder and harder to do what you do with the fewer and fewer numbers.
If anyone notices anything in here that later on that I didn't mention and you have a question, just reach out to me. Come meet with me and Bobby if you want to get into it. He's on vacation, but he'll be here.
We take about a 2-minute break for
Sounds good.
more, for anybody else that needs a little break.
They still don't. There's curriculum.
One guy in the harbor. Just giving you all everything. But.
Yeah, it's right, if you go out that door and turn right, it's
Finance.
Finance is page 21. I will be presenting for Kathy Robinson as she was unable to make it. And a pretty straightforward budget. Let me give you notes really quickly. Typical, for the most part, personnel increases. You're also gonna see the same computer licenses and equipment necessary. Which we don't have a ton of control over, increased slightly, so you'll see a tiny shift there. In computer supplies and maintenance, you'll note that there's a, T&A for $11,000. This is the county is very pen and paper, so everything is handwritten, submitted, so we're trying to create more of a employee user experience, so they can see their accruals online and submit time, just join 2026. And I'm sure you remember how painful it was, but to be able to fill out your timesheet online, what a concept. So we're trying to do a lot of that for our employees. It's time and it's, complies with our record management and record retention and all of that. So that's where that sits for the county, is in the finance budget. And if you have any other specific questions, I will do my best to answer them.
So the wages went up, what I would expect it to go up about 6%. But the benefits didn't go up as much as everybody else's benefits did. And so it looks like workers' comp went down and health insurance went down, all the things that drove all the other budgets, all the other departments to a huge spike. So finance was able to get by lower. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it might be that she now knows exactly what because she's got 6 months in there, but she knows what those actual benefits were rather than projected at 10%.
Sure. And I know she's watching, so any questions anybody has, you'll have an answer probably tomorrow morning.
Good.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Yeah, my question goes in a similar direction. So personnel costs actually went up 7.6% compared to last year's actuals, not last year's budget, but what was actually spent. The finance department typically is very stable. Whether the numbers go up and down, the guys crunching the numbers, doesn't matter. So, and the total expenditures went up 12%, which, that's the 417,000 compared to the 372,000 which we had last year. So that's for a finance department is extraordinary much. And I'd like to understand why this is.
Can you tell us where you're reading those numbers? Because I don't see.
It's on the old one, not the new one.
Do you have the new book?
They're reading the old.
No, it's going after the expenditure, after the total.
Page 21
Yeah.
hasn't,
Date of the bond was 430.
hasn't changed. And the new page 21 has the same numbers as the old page. So the total expenditures budget proposal is 417,645.
Yes, yeah. You said a different number earlier.
Oh, okay, that's,
Oh, okay.
sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
So 417,845 compared to 372,711, which was last year's spending. Yeah, and that's up 12%. And for finance, that's huge. For a finance department. Should be more like inflation or average personnel cost. So that's just my question.
Sorry, I'm just making a note so I can make sure to follow up. Right.
See none, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the finance department's budget at 410,650.
Do I have a second? Second? Any further discussion? Ms. George?
When I look at the grand total, it's even worse. It's 410,000 compared with 318,000 or 319,000. So I don't think well, unless we understand it, I can't improve that.
Well, you're looking at the actuals,
Yes,
and the actuals are not gonna be something that you repeat the next year. If you look at the actuals under revenue, they ended up with CARES money of 51,000 wasn't budgeted. They ended up with interest of $2,500. So the total revenue in the actual side is significantly higher than what they planned for or what they can plan for this year. So that's why most people compare budget to budget, because actuals, there's a lot of things that can go into actuals. You could have somebody who's sick and doesn't come into work, so your personnel costs are going to be down, which ripples through everything else. So I look at personally, I look at the actuals, but I compare budget. That's where you have to predict on what you budgeted, not what you actually spent, because all of those, there's a lot of things that go into that can change. Like the extra CARES money that came, or the interest money that came in and the miscellaneous. So significant increases in those that were not budgeted.
I have a question. I know we hadn't had the audit yet. Was the 25 budget finalized yet?
Nope, this is
So-
off of maybe November year to date.
Yeah, so
So we haven't-
that's another one of the problems. The 25 budget's not final yet.
So those numbers are not, I don't wanna say they're not accurate, because they're up to where we have information, but they won't be fully accurate until we close that 25 year. And we're still waiting for things to come and go and all of that, but I'll make sure, Kathy provides an explanation as well, because I think she had some big budget drivers in here this year, the addition of the time and attendance software.
$1,000.
Exactly, yeah,
A couple of percent right there.
that was previously funded by ARPA, just so.
You had a comment?
Just so the budget committee and the commissioners are aware, the auditors are using our courtroom all of this week, so they are doing the audit. Basically, as we speak, if that helps you, because I don't have to do anything.
Thank you. Did I answer your question, George?
yeah, I get the point of Jeff. So the budget is also theory, but you have to look at it into this particular set of numbers. Sometimes the actuals is reality, and you might have to correct it. For example, if a grant comes in or not, and you've booked it for that year, and it comes a year later, that messes up everything. And you need to take care of that. But otherwise, the actuals is the truth. And the budget, last year's budget might have been messed up or had this something, so it is not as easy. Okay, but it's still, when I take budget or actuals, it's, well, 7% is more acceptable, but still pretty high. Okay.
It's worth understanding why the budget wasn't right last year. You know, if you understand that it's because we hired a new employee who got paid less, or a new employee who got paid more, or somebody who changed and that's why the numbers don't work out from last year. That helped inform this year.
Yeah.
So it's not just the numbers, it's understanding why the numbers are the way they are.
Yeah. And that's why I also like to look at actuals, because these things show up in actuals. But we have this example, Jeff. Okay.
Okay, any other question? We have a motion, a second. Those in favor? Those opposed? You abstaining?
Yes.
One abstention.
And on the commissioner side, I'll accept the motion to approve this budget.
Make a motion, we approve the finance budget of $410,645.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I just want to point out one other thing I noticed between the budget and the actual, on the audit. That's a $7,000 difference for 2025, which is a pretty significant number. And so that I think that, there are a handful of things that are going to contribute to that. But again, 2025 is not closed out yet. The auditors are still working. I'm sure that number will probably change, but just wanted to point out that was another significant number.
And I'd just like to thank finance for the work that they've done, for Kathy and staff over the last few years. As you say, when the rest of the world is swirling around like crazy, they're the one thing you can count on, and Kathy has made that possible for the county to have something we can rely on. So. Any other discussion? Seeing as there's none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed.
Administration is page 10.
Any questions or comments?
I can give a little spiel too if you want.
With that?
I said I can give a little spiel too if you want. When I took the role of county administrator, I identified a lot of things we could be more productive and efficient in. So I'm hoping over, this budget process and the one that's going to be in 4 months and next year, you start to see some of that. Our GIS manager was moved from EMA to administration to be more external facing, to focus more on the town's needs. I think right now 4 or 5 of them are developing their own visual budget to be a helpful tool for their towns. Utilizing the past communications director to now be that external liaison for our public safety departments, our fire departments. Our role here in administration is to serve our municipalities. And in my personal opinion, I don't know that we've done the best job of that in the past. So what I'm trying to do is identify ways to collaborate, be external facing, be more transparent, provide more educational tools, help this budget be more digestible, share some of the things that we do in a program, sense. So again, I know that some of these things are not ideal, but I promise we're identifying them and we're trying to make it better. And as far as specifics in my budget, there's not a ton of wage changes or even, I think overtime went down significantly. The one, big jump here is our legal and labor relations, line. The administration department handles all of that except for the airport. So we take every single department's legal bill, if that makes sense.
Even the sheriff's legal?
Yes, all legal comes to us. And based on what we have spent in the past and based on the fact that we have no undesignated funding anymore due to past years, we decided to increase that to make sure that we're being responsible there. The percentage looks really high on tolls, parking, ferries, but again, that's just more community engagement, getting out to the islands, and we just haven't had it before, so that's why it looks extremely large. And then I think the other kicker is the computer supplies equipment office licenses, which is typical for every other department. And I don't anticipate a ton of changes into the next cycle. Again, trying to just utilize our resources a bit better. I was going to mention, so freedom of access requests can be extremely time consuming and can get extremely expensive. So I am working with the sheriff's office to collect some data so we can start to charge a little bit better and track that a little bit better, and maybe have a small revenue line to administration. So that's the only kind of positive change I see maybe happening, but happy to answer any other questions.
Ms. George.
What happened from 24 to 25? The numbers went down substantially.
In?
Administration.
Oh, just in general, you mean?
Grand total in the budget went down from 920,000 to 536. just historic questions, so to speak, question to the history. You know what I mean?
Yep, I do see it.
Wages went down, that's where the big drop was.
Yeah, so I do not get paid as much as my predecessor, obviously, I mean, there was a lot of tenure in the previous county administrator. And then once, that individual was no longer employed here, we attempted to go through a few others, and it did not work out and was extremely costly. So once we got everything under control, now you're kind of seeing what it actually cost.
There's also a huge number in computer repairs and maintenance in 2024 compared to 2025. So that is a significant contributor. I'm not sure what that was.
Thank you. I'm not either.
So the 640 are your cruising altitude about?
Yes. And doing things like working or helping to have probate and the sheriff's office work together to eliminate, some of that workload, and having communications work with EMA and administration in our new public safety coordinator position. So just trying to be a better external tool.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
This really isn't your budget, but it could be. Not only did your contingency funds, your surplus go down significantly, but almost all your reserve accounts are down significantly. I don't recall having this posted. Are you thinking about trying to bring reserves back up, and so in the future we might see a budget line that is feeding the reserves, right?
So that's what I'm trying to get to. That, and as well as looking at our capital plan proposal. I mean, some years are extremely high, some years are extremely low. So I do want to have a conversation as we get through 27 of how we can discuss that as a team to make sure that we're not hitting taxpayers with just trying to space it out a little bit more. So again, more diligence with that. Yes, our undesignated reserves are at kind of a not so great percentage number right now. So that is a priority. Of course, it's difficult to do because we can't just tax to have a reserve, but I think there's been a lot of changes made this year that I'm hoping we'll see a little bit supplement a little bit at the end of this year.
Anyone else? Have a motion?
Motion that we approve the administration department's budget at $614,398.
Second. Seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Passes.
And on the commission one,
I'll make a motion that we approve the administration budget of $614,398.
Any discussion? I will step in here and say, I see that there's a small increase on the commissioner's wages line listed. Which we haven't gotten in the last 4 or 5 years. And though it's incredibly small, I think it's like $687 or something total. I would like to see us go back to what we've been getting paid, which is the.
Yeah, I'm assuming, and I'll double check with our finance director, but I'm assuming that should be 27,600. So I'll confirm that and send an updated.
Well, I'm sure it's just a 2% increase done across the board or something like that.
Yeah.
But I would like to see it go back.
Thank you.
So I will make a recommendation to amend your motion to lower it by whatever that number is, if it's possible.
I can do that math, yes.
Okay, and I don't know if we want to send that back to the budget committee to discuss in that format or not. Because the budget that they're recommending includes the increase.
I'll make them.
So you said that.
$687, so it's
Yeah, but it's also includes the commissioner,
Yeah.
the shares stipend goes up by $20 or something.
Yeah, and it ripples through to your benefit. Through straight.
So it looks like the. Sure that I got there somewhere. Did you? Walnuts. So it's minus,
We can approve it just with it going back to its original amount. And I
I'll
ask
amend
for
the
finance to do that.
we go back to the original
Yeah.
amount for a commissioner salary of 20,600 and the chairman for 800.
So are there no increases for the chair of the committee? Who is taking care of that? I mean.
The budget
is
committee.
Budget committee. Then I would suggest we increase at least by inflation.
Do you think it should go up? I don't think it should. I think in any budget year, we're talking about a budget that's going up over 10%, that we shouldn't be getting paid anymore. But that's up to you. I think that should go back to you. I want to make this as a recommendation to us, and let's see if we pass it. And if it does before you do your final budget,
Then I
You
will
can
make a
discuss
motion
that.
to reconsider the motion approval of $614,398.
Second.
I'm sorry, what was that number again?
$614,398. What I'm doing is asking to reconsider the motion that was made previously,
Okay.
so we can approve that, and then we can then make the motion to what I would figure would be with the adjustment.
We still have a vote based on if they're voting.
Well, if they're waiting for recommendation from the budget committee, then they shouldn't vote.
Table our.
well, yeah, I think your motion to reconsider certainly can take,
So do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, any discussion?
It appears that the final number I see is 613,691. If I got that right.
I don't have a calculator in front of me, so I can't confirm that.
Yeah,
And you pay for it, didn't do it.
I'm thinking minute, I got a lot going on over here, sorry.
Was there any discussion on this?
this is just the vote, the motion to reconsider.
To reconsider. They would then vote to withdraw our decision.
Yeah, it's a philosophical discussion on whether or not we should, even though they don't want to take it, ensure that these lines go up with inflation or COLA. Because at some time, if you keep doing that, sometime in the future, they're going to be so far out of whack. Big jump. So I could argue vehemently in both directions.
We don't have to set a rule, a fixed rule that applies every year. I'm really talking about this year's number. Yeah. And when there are new laws.
Maybe Mr. Hobbs, it doesn't realize this, but I've had communication with Amber and Mr. Glazier. I mean, we're one county away from Waldo, and their commissioners are not paid, compensated, rewarded at all, and they do, excuse me, a lot of administration. That's zero cost on their budget. Now, do they run their budget and their financials differently? Of course they do. But it's something that we should probably explore, how to collaborate and have more involved, engaged administration. They're the administrators too. That's all. Thank you.
Just want to comment on, you say more engagement. I know each one of them have, I'll call them committee assignments. other departments that they attend meetings to. I mean, like Mark, Airport Committee, I'm not sure what the other ones do. So, I mean, it's not a lot of money what they're making. I mean, my salary is a selectman, I figure I make probably 50 cents an hour, if that, so. I mean, I think they should be compensated. Yeah, some
I'm
such,
gonna move the question.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to move the question.
Okay. So did we have a second? We did, okay. Those in favor of cutting the, or I'm sorry, reconsider. Motion passed. Okay, do we have a new figure?
I make a motion that we approve $613,691.
You got a second?
This number represents an increase by inflation. Is this how?
That's the number.
I don't think that's the right number.
Well, since the motion wasn't seconded, then I would make a motion that once the reduction of the commissioner's stipend goes to $9,000, whatever the final number is, I'll make the motion to approve that.
Second that.
$600, $630, whatever the number
Yeah.
is.
Okay, any discussion? Motion second. Seeing none, those in favor? Motion passes.
Okay, so the new budget number is a squishy number. It's the number as presented minus the,
Yes,
the
it's
increases in whatever
commissioner and chairman.
insurance
Yeah,
changes
exactly.
or workers' compensation, as well as the chair.
I have the number. I'll make a motion that we approve the administration budget of $613,691, which moves the commissioner wage and the chairman stipend back to the 2025 numbers.
No, but I think what their motion was includes other changes that we don't have the numbers on.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
it includes, because things like workers' comp are based on a percentage of wages. So the workers may only go down $1 or whatever, but the point is, we want to make sure that we have the same formula for everything across the board. So his recommendation was that the budget go down, whatever it is, if we take the chair and the commissioners back to the same wages as last year.
That's what I just said.
Plus whatever other numbers are associated with that.
But I don't.
We don't have those numbers. Yeah.
But we don't get those.
Yes, you
Yes, you do.
Yes,
Yeah, workers.
You're covered.
yes.
Yeah.
It's one of the main reasons for
Yeah.
Kate.
It's not like just take the money from workers.
I
Yeah.
was not aware of that. I thought.
And on top of that, things like FICA paid for by the city, by the county at whatever it is, 6.5%. You know, whatever that percentage is, that's a matching fee that goes on, that. So the motion should be to, whatever the hell the budget committee agreed on.
Say one thing. I know a lot of people feel that, this is a job that, people that don't need money take because they want to do public service. The income is actually very important to me, and it contributes a lot to my personal budget. It's important. And it's important, but I will support whatever.
It's the only reason I took the job. Yeah.
So go ahead and make a motion. You can make it.
Move that we accept the budget line as presented by the budget committee for the administration. Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? I mean, because you two can vote to do that as presented, the 2% increase.
No, I didn't need an increase. I just don't want it to go down
Yeah.
further than it was going, once you got into all the other stuff.
Right.
Make it in 2025 is fine with me.
Megan,
Sorry.
go ahead. Morgan.
That said, I do think that we need to do what we can to make these positions attractive to people, so that we attract good, competent people who are genuinely interested in doing this job, and we give them a little bit of incentive to do it. And I think the salary, while small, is not nothing. And so in the future, I think I would like to see it go up. It's been a strange year with the budget process being put off, and a number of different challenges in the county. So I'm fine with it staying where it is. But in the future, I do think we need to reconsider that and think about how we get good people to run. And I know there were other people interested in my seat when I ran, but I did run unopposed as a write-in, and there are a lot of seats for that are up for election that people aren't running for these days. We obviously had that issue with the budget committee, and so I just think it's important to try to attract good people to do these jobs. So that's I'll get off my soapbox.
I have one of the subject that when I worked in the music business, we did free concerts with radio stations, and radio stations discovered that if they gave away free tickets, people didn't take them seriously. If they charged a small amount for tickets, people took it seriously and attended the shows. There's a certain amount of respect, I think, and work that goes into this job, and I think having the salary is important for that.
Sounds like what you're saying is we should be charging the budget committee money to serve because they'll take it more seriously. I like that. Well, I think, we don't know about the budget committee being paid, but I don't think we should be voting on or discussing what our wages are. I think it's been brought up that other counties pay different amounts. And until we do a study of how much all of the county commissioners get and their job responsibilities, I don't think it's appropriate for us to, at this point, add more money, because I think it's a good chunk of money. It's more than I got as a city councilor.
I got as a select board.
Yeah, and so I don't think it's an insignificant amount of money.
And, review of all of the counties, I would want them to include how well are those functioning, because the counties where they're not paying commissioners, they may be having some real challenges. So I think we need to be kind of clear-eyed about what we're comparing. It's not always apples to apples.
And then whatever discussions you want to have after that. Ms. Roberts rules,
I thought we had moved to pass.
you hadn't moved it, but you hadn't voted on it yet. So
Right.
I think the conversations are getting away from the purpose of the motion. Okay.
Though I don't think that the budget committee is the ones who are supposed to tell us how we're running our meeting. So that
Anybody in the audience, Chairman, can call point of order.
That being said, any further discussion?
No, except tell me exactly what we're voting on.
We're voting on the finance budget.
Administration
The
budget.
administration budget as presented to us by the budget committee, which includes the chair stipend and the stipend for the board going back to the same as last year, and whatever other numbers therefore wind up being appropriate, correct?
Okay, it's one other discussion piece. The numbers have been the same for the previous year, so I don't know how.
Yeah, I'm gonna check and see, because I think it was just it just got carried over, so I'm sure it's just a small clerical error, and I apologize.
Okay, call the vote.
We'll call the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? No one. So passed with 3 in favor, none opposed.
Okay, any further reviews anybody is looking for, any committees or anything? You have no question? Yes.
I have a comment regarding our next round in October or when it is. When I look at this, it's a new experience to me. First time done on the county budget. And I think we had one big achievement to me, and that was the correction, the budget savings on the corrections by changing the pattern from running our own jail with increasing costs and outsourcing it to bridges. So that's the good news. The bad news is it happened by an accident. And it would have been what I would like to see moving forward. I would like to get out of this pattern that every year and I'm now quoting you, that every 6 years the budget is doubled. And that's what typically happens unless you have these disruptive events that we had with corrections. And I think a good organization manages this without accidents. And I would like to suggest that we take the next biggest line item, which is the sheriff's office, and look at whether we can operate it in a very different pattern to get out of this plus 16% and so forth moving forward. I don't know whether such a pattern exists, but I would like a structured approach to try to change that, whatever that means. And that the way to get there may be not having, the review meeting that we have. You have like 30 minutes for that, discuss it, and then move on. But we might have a series of meetings focusing on just this one item, look at options, look at how others are doing, how others have solved it. And maybe we find a similar pattern that we were forced to find with corrections. That's kind of my input moving forward, trying to get out of these ever increasing, double-digit increasing budgets.
Any other comments?
I just have a question, what's the process for the next meeting? So is there no more changes that can be made to the budget from the budget committee?
The administrator wanted to address some of that.
Do you want to, or do you want me to?
You already did.
Can I steal that sheet again? That was my cheat sheet.
I don't see anything about that on it, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah, well, it all ties in, I think. So with these even small changes this evening, we're gonna remove the restorative justice amount from the miscellaneous. We're gonna make some adjustments to the administrative budget with the commission, and then you need time to review that, which I'm assuming our finance director, and it's a big assumption, she'll be back in the office tomorrow and be able to get that all to you. But then you need a moment to review it, which means we're gonna have to push back our public hearing, in my opinion, because we're gonna be cutting it very, very close to meet that 10-day requirement. So I think we need to discuss that piece, and then the other piece, to kind of chat about to your question is, yes, do you want another meeting to review? Do you want to see, have further discussion? Do you want to have another department up presenting? I know we talked about having a plan for the sheriff's office for the 27 budget. We talked about doing research for the commissioner's wages for the 27 budget, and we also talked about having an action plan for the KRCC for the 27 budget. So all of that will be happening, but if there is another meeting that you all want to have, we can make whatever you all need happen, and then I can adjust the timeline.
So we don't have another meeting and we go to the public hearing, there's no changes?
At this point, but we can adjust that.
Yeah, typically, there could be changes, but we are obligated as the budget committee to say, these are the departments that I would like to relook at. Because we can't just surprise them on the day we're voting on it and say, I don't like what the airport's budget is. You gotta give the airport manager an opportunity to come in and defend that budget. So even if we have another meeting prior to the formal vote, I think it's on us to say, I need to talk again with that department head, so that those decisions can be made.
What
I'm sorry.
What if we just wanted to make a flat cut to all expenditures?
I personally wouldn't support that, but
Is that something that would be done in this meeting?
Yeah.
What did you have?
I mean, our department heads are pretty good at budgeting. I mean, I've never seen since the many years I've been doing this, I've never seen any fluff in the budget. It wasn't needed. Yes, we don't like these numbers. We don't like anything going up. But if you're running, a business and you need to spend this money, X number of dollars something, you gotta spend it.
I would use that analogy if I were you, Robert, because businesses have been known to cut, have businesses have.
Well, you're right, that was a great analogy.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is, we're serving the public. So, I mean, we've said we're gonna do this. So we have to do it. If you cut any budget, I'll pick on law enforcement as you were earlier. If they cut their budget, that means they cut patrols, they cut personnel. They're gonna be the first ones things to go. And I think Kurt had when he presented, the group that, to defund the police, defund the police, they did their own study and said that should have like 37 officers.
Mhm.
And we've got 12.
16 with our detectives.
Actually patrol. So I mean, we owe it to the residents to serve them the best we can.
and flat cuts across the board means that even places that need that money, that you can't cut it, get impacted. And when you look at what the bulk of this budget is, it's personnel costs, and most of those are locked in, and we can't cut the salary of most of the people that work here because those are set in either agreements with them or with the labor union. And so if you can come in, and I have no problem with cutting budgets, but it's incumbent upon us to say where those cuts should come from. I don't think this should be in here, or this looks like it's too expensive, but to do a flat across the board means that you end up cutting into bone instead of just fat. So I could never support a flat decrease in this.
To be clear, I was talking about expenditures, not wages or food. It wouldn't be worse. I didn't have anything in mind, but I was elected to this committee to look at cuts. I know that, at least from Rockland's standpoint, and now we've got a newspaper article today that Thomaston's gonna see a 10% increase in their taxes. There's rumors going around about side pulling RSU 13, which is gonna impact all of the other taxpayers. I guess, so my question is like, is there a number that this committee can come to on the expenditures? As a flat cut, or maybe there's not, and that's the answer.
Peter, you had
And on Nicole's, kind of on her note, and Mr. Northgraves and Mr. Peabody responded to me a year ago in a simple cut that would net close to 150,000, that these four nonprofits, these four charitable organizations get cut from this budget that we're working on right here. And it's a one-year cut, and it's not a popular cut, because these gentlemen last year told me so. But there's 150K that, why are we supporting a community nonprofit when we're not supporting four other different ones? These four, I'll name them off: the Mid-Coast Council of Government, the Knox County Extension, Restorative Justice, and the Lincoln Soil and Water. Great organizations, we already heard that, we've heard that many times, wonderful. But there's 150K that we could keep out of our expenditures. And it's not popular, not at all. It's this year. It would be difficult. It would be difficult. It'd be a challenge and all this, but it would be doable.
2 things on that.
Okay, thank you.
We get a lot more back than what we give them.
Okay, yep.
You know, the town I'm in, we support some, and they give us the numbers of how many, you know, thousands more than what we give them. So it repays. And McCog, you know, I know there's been some people that are against that, and if you use McCog, they can get you a lot of grants. I mean, we're using them, town I'm from, and they've been terrific.
And for McCog, if the county doesn't support McCog, for example, then each of the towns to get any of those services is gonna have to pay into McCog. So the dues for McCog have to come from somewhere. And it'll either be the municipalities or it'll be the county. And it's cheaper for the county to do it than it is for each of the towns to do it.
Okay, it was just a suggestion.
Yeah, no, nobody's knocking that. Nobody's
Well,
knocking, please don't think that.
Okay.
But at least I'm not. The other thing you gotta look at, I just totally lost what I was gonna say. What was I gonna say, Jeff?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, say you take $100,000 out of the budget. What percentage is that gonna drop in your taxes? You won't even see it, per se. Yes,
That's what really pisses me off when that statement came out, because there was a woman sitting in Mark's seat last year that raised that point, and I was brand new on the committee at that point. And I bit my tongue, and I was gonna lay into her, because that's a pathetic attitude to come with. Any percentage of a reduction in the taxes means a lot to the individual taxpayer. I'm not chewing you out, I'm chewing out the statement. Because I'm sitting here looking at 12 to 14% increases in taxes, and our taxpayers are having a hell of a time paying those every year. And you go 5, 6 years, they double every 5 or 6 years. So the guy paying $3,500 this year, in 6 years could be paying $7,000, $14,000, $28,000. Where does it stop? But this, we have to start thinking about, yes, we have to start saving money, but by God, we gotta start figuring out how we're gonna get some income to help offset that. If it comes from the state, if it comes from private fundraising, I don't know where it comes from, but we've got to start thinking that way. We can't wait to the last minute to take care of it, because then we're gonna be in a hell of a mess. So I think we've got to, whatever penny we can save, the dollar will follow.
not disagreeing.
No,
I respect your comments. The other thing, again, you know, you say you cut from other things. You let your infrastructure go, it's gonna cost you a lot more. I mean, how many thousands did we pay a few years ago to upgrade the heating system? Because they've been let go for so many years. Just other, you know, the roof leaking, bricks falling, you know, stuff like that. You know, I don't disagree with you, as I said earlier, nobody likes a tax increase. But if you don't keep up your infrastructure, it's gonna cost you a lot more later. And the jail's had issues, just because funding was never there to help them or to do it.
I don't argue with you, Roger, but this road has to change. At some point, this road has to change sooner than later. We cannot continue going down this road. It's got to change, because the taxpayer will not be able to afford it.
Can I just step in for 1 second? Because it gets to what you're saying about planning for the future. We are not running the jail the way we did, not simply because we were in a budget crunch. We've been working on this for the last 4 or 5 years. We've been meeting with the rest of this jail collaborative. The District 86 collaborative has been meeting for literally years. And we had discussed what we were gonna do, that we could no longer afford to have separate jails. How were we gonna do it? We were driven into it this year, sped up the timetable, but we've been planning. So we have been doing exactly what you're saying, we're trying. We don't know exactly what the next thing is gonna be. You're absolutely right. The sheriff's department, being such a big department, is something we should be looking at. I don't know that there's a lot we're gonna come up with, partly because the sheriff is an elected official. and has a certain, I mean, we're responsible for the finances, they're responsible for the operation, and we have to work with the sheriff. It's also an election year, and we don't know that our sheriff will be the sheriff come January. And it may make sense to work with whoever the new sheriff is to come up with a new plan, because I'm sure a new sheriff will have a different plan than what we have now. Don't know. But I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's what we're trying to work on, is instead of saying, oh, we need to cut the budget that we have now, is how do we prepare for the next generation of budget? You know, I think we are working with the fire departments, the emergency by providing somebody who helps providing training for all of the departments. That's something that's a saving to all the town. It's not necessarily going to be a savings to the county. We now have another employee at whatever it is, they get paid plus all their benefits, that's on our payroll, but it's saving all of the town's money. So the question is not necessarily how do we cut our budget, but how do we also provide services to the towns that saves them money? Because we are trying to find a way to lower taxes. And I don't know that you can use the word lower taxes in the government in the same sentence. But it's something we have to try to do, and you're absolutely right. I think that's one of the things that Amber's been working on, is are there other services that we can provide? Is it communications that needs to work across town, county lines? Is it deeds? What are the things? There are certainly strictures that we're stuck with that we can't work beyond, but we have to work on that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that cutting the budget right now is going to force us into that.
My 2 cents. One of the things, I've been doing government budgets now for a decade. And one of the things I've noticed working for town and working for the county is that the budget committees come in because everybody's upset about the cost of living these days. And what I found is in going through these budgets year after year after year, the towns and the county have been very responsible in keeping things down, because the budget committees work really hard to keep the budgets down. And I don't see, you know, we just went through this. I don't see any waste or any excess or anything like that. But people, because this is what we have the ability to work on, we want to try and save money here. My problem is I don't see the county or the towns being wasteful. But what I see, one of the things that really gets me mad is when I look at the PUC for the state. And last year, they okayed CMP $1.7 billion increase in fees. And CMP turned around and gave 700 million of that to their stockholders as profit. You know, because we have the ability to look at the county and the town budgets, I don't see, I mean, we didn't have enough money because we don't have the undesignated funds to fix the roof this winter. We've been keeping things tight here, so the towns I've been involved with, you know, it's like, it's where we have the responsibility, but I think that the problems are way beyond us. And Doug, I have a question for you. I don't understand where you get the figure that people's taxes will double every 6 years. Because I've lived here for over a dozen and I haven't seen that happen with my taxes. Where is that figure from?
Well, I'll give you an example of my taxes. 10 years ago, with 30, they're over 9,000 euros.
Wow, okay, because I just think that.
Let's just run the numbers, say 12% every year, 1.2 times your taxes. 6 years they'll double.
But the problem is and a 12% budget for the county doesn't mean it's a 12% increase.
No.
And it's a,
When you factor the school budget, the town budget, and the county budget, when you add those all up, Thomason's budget this year is 10%, but when you factor in the other two, it's gonna push it out to 12 to 14%, somewhere in that ballpark.
that's an increase, but that doesn't increase property tax.
This is going exactly, I took property taxes for 5 years, and I worked them forward, and they were all 12%. And now they're gonna be higher than that, but I figured 12% further. But I went and did research, I didn't want my own taxes. My own taxes went up 12% every year, and then some. And so did the selectmen, because they didn't know I ran theirs, but theirs went up 12%. So that tax bill did go up.
I know it's gone up, but I haven't seen it go up. I haven't seen
Well,
it double in 6 years.
I would not make a statement on that without doing that research, believe me.
What that does though, that ignores the cost of living that goes up and the inflation that goes up. So even though they may be paying double, they're probably earning double. So they have more income to do that. And unless you flatten out the inflation, you can't make the statement that you're having an impact.
Your taxes are going up higher percentage wise than your salary. Your salary's going up between 2.5%, maybe 3% if you're lucky. Your taxes are going up 12%. So there's gonna be a point where they're gonna catch up.
And I'll argue that one of the reasons that our taxes are going up is because we are being mandated by federal and state requirements.
That's a different subject.
No, it's the same subject, because you're driving up the requirements. You are taking your fire department, and they now have to do a lot more than they did before, and you're gonna have to pay them more to do that, or pay them to go to school, or to buy this piece of equipment that you didn't have to have before, or the ambulance, that now ambulance can't keep their own drugs and work it with the hospital. They have to be responsible for their own. It's gonna be a huge cost to the town.
When I say that's a different subject, I mean, it's all part of the pot, Jeff, to be honest with you. I get that. At some point, it's got to stop. Where does that come?
And I agree with your premise that we should try to stop this, but the only way to do it is not through cuts in budgets on processes that exist. Is to change the process like they did with the jail. That's the only way you're gonna see any meaningful cuts to any budgets. Because you can't stop paying people. You can't stop giving them a COLA increase. You can't stop improving the things that you have to improve because the feds and the state said you do. And you can't stop the maintenance on your buildings. And all of those costs go up every single year. The contractors you bring in to do that, their costs are going up much higher than inflation, much higher than, so those are the things that drive your budget. The only way to truly make a savings is to change the process. You can't work in the process and decrease it. You have to change the process, like the jail did. And so George's idea about finding some other place to change the process is the only way we're gonna make any savings, any meaningful savings.
That's fine. I mean, how will we get there, Jeff? That doesn't bother me. Even if we change the process, whatever that process is, let's look at changing the process. I'm not going to say we need to do a 10% cut all the way across the board, but what I am saying is that we need to think of ways that we can reduce these increases the best we can. I'm not going to get into it yet, but I'm going to want to talk to you, and I'm going to want to talk to Sheriff Pokey, because I've got an idea that I've run by Camden and Thompson and a few others, and I'm trying to move forward with. It will bring money to the county, bring money to the town. But we need to come up with ideas to generate revenues for each of the towns of the counties.
I think that's the way we've got to go. Yeah, and I know it's traditionally been a nasty word, but regionalizing things that we.
Right on board with you there.
And we have to move forward with that. And the only way for regionalizations to happen is for the towns, which are the stovepipes, right? Those are the things that are interfering with regionalization. They have to be behind it, and they have to actually have somebody who is championing that. Because if anybody in the county tried to champion, they would be told, you're trying to take over my business. And I heard those exact words from fire chiefs. The county just wants to become a fire department. So it is something that can't happen overnight, and it can't be driven by the people in the county. It has to be driven by the towns.
I think the ideas can come from the county. We just need to bring the towns on board with it. And I know from Thomaston, I think we're ready for it. I think Rockport's ready for it. I think Rockland might be ready for it as well. I think we're getting to that point because taxes, that could all change depending who's governor. And this has got me concerned because they're all talking about cutting real estate taxes, they're all talking about cutting income taxes. How's that gonna have an impact on us? So this is the one lead balloon that I haven't figured out yet, how that's gonna impact us. But based on what I know today, we've got to start coming together, be it the county, and they're in the better position to come to the town, invite the town to say, guys, let's try to figure out a way of working together. And I broached the subject about 4 months ago. Yeah, I got my hand slapped down, but I'm not ready to give up yet, because I've got some taxpayers behind me, and hey, once you get the taxpayers behind you, then the town leaders are gonna have to fall in line. But it's gonna take organization, I think, better coming from the county than maybe from the town.
I'll add one thing. The first thing Amber will tell you, the first thing I talked about after correcting and fixing the 911 call center was doing regionalization. I mentioned a few weeks ago, I met with Chris Rector, and we sat and talked about it right away, and getting Bob Coombs in to do that job. You know, Pope asked me about that, Rockport asked me about that, about getting somebody to help, so we're doing that. The one other thing I'll say about property taxes, my property taxes have gone up, but it had nothing, very little to do with increase in the town and the county budget. It had way more to do with the valuations that we just went through. And that's one of the big problems we have, is what's happened to the valuation of our real estate because of the money coming in from out of state. That's what's destroying our economy. And people are not living here full time, they're not supporting the schools. That's a serious problem, and I don't know how we deal with that. But that's where the property tax increases have come from, is the valuations. And that's something we need to figure out how to deal with.
But the valuations are not correlated to the taxes.
Exactly.
The valuations is the key, how to distribute the tax load that we decide here.
This, again, when I was dealing with the Camden budget, we were talking about 2 full-time firefighters, 2 more firefighters, because Camden just went 24/7, 365 with their fire department in last October, and they wanted 2 more people. And the budget committee said, we're not sure if we want to do it this year. And I asked the finance director to figure out how much it would cost each person. And 2 full-time firefighters would cost a person with a $300,000 home $27 for the year. You know, the amount that we increase by the time it gets to the percentage of our increases looks much bigger than it actually is for the individual taxman. The increases are not coming from the budget. We provide services. That's all we do. We don't plant trees, we don't do anything else. The county is services. And as we've sat through every one of these budget meetings, virtually every person has said they're understaffed, they're working overtime, they're working hard. But we need those services. This is not the place. I did some more research looking at budgets. Let me bring it up here. I looked at what's happening with our businesses. Shaw's Market, annual revenue is $7.1 billion, and they wanted they have I don't see the increase here, but Hannaford, I have that as well. Hold on, let me find it. Just that's the part, the corporations, the greed of the corporations is what's killing us.
Well, and the fact that the state of Maine is one of the worst to do business.
Hannaford's annual revenue in 2025 amounted to $886 million, with the projected growth rate of 5 to 10% for 2026. You know, the corporations are looking for increased profits, and they make a steady profit every year. That's where our money's going. My money, look at the gas we're paying. Look at my wife goes to the supermarket. That's where our money is going. And we're trying to squeeze blood out of a stone when we come here and try to take it out of the services. We should be, the fact that they gave CMP that raise is unconscionable. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. You know, we need to look at where is our home budget going? And it's not going to the county, it's not going to the towns, because I don't see them making any decisions that are extravagant whatsoever. You know, but this is the only part where a budget committee can come. You can't go to Hannaford and say your prices are too high. And we should be able to all call the PUC and say, what the hell did you do giving CMP that raise for it? That makes no sense. And they said, well, it's about better services and cutting trees, and yet they give $700 million to profit to their shareholders. That's where the profit is. That's where the world is.
I don't agree with that, Mark, because I have 2 feet that I can walk, and when I go shopping, if I can get it cheaper at Walmart, I'll go to Walmart to get it. If I get it cheaper at Hannaford, I go there. If I get it on Amazon cheaper, I will walk. So we're not beholden to these companies. I mean, they have a certain profit that they're trying to make. That's not the profit that Hannaford's trying to make or Walmart's trying to make, not that high, as you might think.
And that is measured and reported every month. The inflation is at 2.6%. That's what you pay more at Hannaford over 1 year. I don't know if CMP, but electricity is also part of the basket that is measuring inflation. So this is why I'm always relating to this 2.6%.
Well, in actual fact, let me correct you on something, that the CMP today, 2 presidents ago, they knocked out food, energy, and housing.
That's the core rate.
So when they said that the inflation rate is 2.6%, it really is about 5 to 6%. And when they said it was 9%, I sat down and figured out it was 16%. People thought it was nuts, but when some economists came out and said it's 16%.
Right. We're not getting the figures, and the thing about Wall Street is they're not looking for a steady amount of profit. They're looking for an increase in profits every year. And so people keep finding ways to cut costs to make more profit. And there was a study done, and we should stop after this. I'll say one more thing.
Okay, I'm not gonna make a motion to cut anything flat.
Motion to adjourn.
I think we still have a do we want another meeting?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Either way, we're going to have to postpone the May 12th public hearing. I'm recommending May 15th, just to ensure that you have the weekend with the updated figures from administration and the miscellaneous, which we've discussed here. And then we'll get everything out Monday and give us a window to have that public hearing, unless you'd like another meeting and then push it out another week.
What's the date again you're saying?
I'm recommending from May 12th to push it to the Thursday, May 14th. Same time, 6 p.m.
I have a question. You put this all together, you probably have the best overview. What, not my question.
Okay.
What in your feeling are those budget items that are most promising to get some savings moving forward? So the goal being, I think we shouldn't increase next year's budget at all. We should be at ±0. That would be my goal. So what areas should we focus on? And maybe we should have a meeting with the budget, with the department heads of these areas and say, look, how can we get your savings?
It's difficult because, like some of the conversation we've had tonight, we don't have a lot of choices in what we can and can't do. We have to have a deeds department, and we're required to do certain things in there, right? We have to provide law enforcement, we have to provide a communication center. And when I say have to, it's right there, there's different statutes that dictate what we do. Our budget is extremely bare bones. We have no extra money. We cut as much fat from this budget as possible. We got rid of a lot of miscellaneous things that we identified, and we're going to continue to do that. And I think the diligence is really what Douglas has been talking about this whole time. We've got to have some town engagement because there's not much we can do at this level. We have to be working with our towns. The public safety coordinator is going to be a huge help to that when it comes to public safety and getting their needs. So we don't have Hope and Appleton and Union buying the same equipment. They can buy one and share it. So that's going to save municipalities. And to Commissioner Ratner's point, we're funding that position to save the municipalities money. Our GIS manager does a lot of front-facing work for the municipalities. Maybe does 10% for the county, but again, that's a position the county is funding. So I think it's a give and take, right? It's, you get rid of something or we cut a service or cut a contract, but that's gonna fall back on the towns at the end of the day. So it's a bigger conversation. I would love for the budget committee to be a part of the budget development and have more conversations. We're actually building a massive hub to share how we got to all these places and where our numbers are and how it all kind of fits together, sharing some more of our programs. So instead of saying, hey, I wanna see a 10% less cut, I wanna get rid of this specific program in the county, because there's not a lot of value to the municipalities. So I think that's a better way to steer the conversation. And I'll just close with, I think for the past 15 to 20 years, we haven't ever had this conversation. This was new when you joined the budget committee is when we really started talking about regionalization and collaboration. And that was kind of our window to do so. So this is somewhat new to the county, and it's gonna take a minute because we have to build a lot of rapport. I'm new, right? It's a bigger conversation, but I think we're gonna have a lot of tools for 27 budget process with our hub, our visual budget. We're actually working on a mill rate, so every town knows exactly what their county taxes are increasing by, and you can kind of track that at a better digestible level, especially for citizens. So again, we are working on a lot of tools and working toward a lot of conversations to have that. But I can't sit here and tell you, we're very bare bones.
Okay, so does everybody feel we need to have another meeting or go to the public hearing, May 14th at 6 o'clock?
That's my vote.
I'm good with that.
14.
14th.
Yeah, 6 p.m.
6 p.m.?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was having later.
Thursday.
Yes.
I do have, I think I have two comments. One is in the current budget, you're setting the rate with an overlay.
Yes.
And you did, I think the max overlay that you can do.
Yes.
Last couple of years, you've done it about half of it.
Yeah.
And I prefer the half, but if you can, if you guys can justify doing it, then I'm willing to consider it. But overlays for the towns are necessary because it pays for taxing people and getting the appraisals done and mistakes that are in that. But for the county, I'm not sure what the overlay is used for. I think maybe one of the reasons your surplus is down is because your overlay was down. So the overlay was actually feeding your surplus. And I'd rather be upfront about we're gonna feed this reserve account rather than we're gonna throw this money into a pot that can spring. But that's just me personally, but it is something I would like you to consider for the next. And the other thing is, LD1, I think LD1 for the county's gone away as well. I looked for it, I know it's gone for the towns.
Yes.
It was repealed.
Yes.
And I looked to find if it had stayed with the county, and I can't find it anywhere. I think it's gone.
Yeah.
So that can take away a whole couple pages and manpower and hours that you guys are doing.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Still have to make it very equitable, and there's a whole different brain you have to use to make sure that gets, so, but yes, you're absolutely right.
Feel we need to take a vote on that or just straw vote that will meet on the 14th?
I feel fine with the straw vote.
We all set?
May 14th, 6 p.m. We're gonna get the updated budget out tomorrow, and everything will get posted on Monday. Okay. And if anybody comes up with any questions after thinking about it, there's a lot of good discussion, reach out. I think everybody so far has said, come see us, talk to us, visit, all questions, email, whatever you need to do.
I want to thank all the members for coming to these meetings. Very good ideas from everybody. We got along, there's no fist fights or anything. Nice. Just want to thank you all very much.
Thank you for sharing it so nicely. Moderate.
Motion to adjourn. Second, in favor?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Assuming all are in favor, sorry, thank you.
Yes.
I'll second.
we still have a meeting on, well,
Yes,
the
2 p.m.
regular commission meeting will be at. And anything else that we need sooner, we can always schedule. And then, so that means we have a meeting in the 12th. Great call. Any other discussion? None, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of adjournment? Unanimous.